how I valued success, I would say, even maybe a couple years ago, was accolades. Or when I started the podcast, I wanted to have this certain number to deem that this was successful. Or I just wanted to check off those boxes, going back to those boxes of where I think I should have been, being 27. But I think now my success looks like what I'm ultimately aligned with. Like, am I pouring back into people? I always go back to that core belief of, am I contributing in the way that I want to?
Hello, and welcome back to Journeys to College and Beyond. So happy to see you guys again. So we spend so much mental energy on considering college, trying to get into college, applying to college, transitioning to college. It's easy to forget why we strive for this in the first place. And it's important to consider life on the other side of that graduation stage. And I know from wherever you're listening right now, that might feel so distant and hard to even imagine, but building a life and career after college is kind of the whole point. So to help us unpack this, we're here with a very talented, hardworking young alumna from the University of Illinois and a friend of mine, Taylor Howard. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. I love that intro. That was so good.
Oh, stop. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Taylor, as I mentioned, we do kind of know each other. We go back a little bit, and we actually met as students here on campus.
We sure did. Yeah, I don't know. It feels so weird to be back on campus. Like, I feel like I'm in a state of nostalgia, just going through like the quad and just remembering like being there, being at the main quad, working, editing. So it just feels great to be. It feels great to be back. So thanks for having me.
We are so happy to have you. Actually, when I had the idea for this theme for an episode, like exploring like life after college kind of theme, I thought of you right away for a couple reasons. One, obviously, you got your bachelor's here. But also, you got your master's here. You're like, let me get a little master's degree real quick.
Double Illini.
Yes! Double up, and then like take your show on the road, go out there and do your thing for real. And here we are, like, I don't know, I'm not going to say how many years later, but
oof, yeah, don't age us. But yeah, it's been like 5 years since I got my bachelor's, 4 years since I got my master's in journalism. And to think about my initial plans to go to U of I, one, to be kind of close to home. I'm from the Chicagoland area, but also because I understand that U of I is a very rigorous program. It's a very rigorous school, and I wanted to be amongst the best. So I'm really glad that I'm able to utilize my degree. It looks a little different, which we'll probably talk about a little later in the conversation, but I'm really glad that I came to U of I.
Amazing. I mean, we're obviously very happy to hear it. So undergrad and grad school. What initially drew you to Illinois for undergrad, and then what made you kind of stick around for grad school?
Yeah, good question. So I am from the Chicagoland area, and I did want to be closer to home. I love my family, and I wanted to be in a drivable distance. But I was choosing in between Mizzou and U of I. And while I think Mizzou is a great school as well, and they have a great journalism program, I think just what stood out to me is just U of I is holistically just a phenomenal school. And every time, like whether I'm at the airport or whether I was at my high school, et cetera, I would always run into an alumni from U of I, and they would always just talk about how outstanding the school was professionally and socially. And so that's what ultimately made me decide to go to U of I. And then I would say for grad school, it was a little different. I didn't initially plan to go to grad school. I was going to go.
Right.
Yeah. I was a COVID grad.
Right.
I was a COVID grad.
Right.
And I remember in the midst of that, I also was kind of like, I don't know if I want to be a news anchor. And so combining those two together, I decided, you know what? I think I really want to dive a little deeper in the specialization of journalism to see if this is ultimately what I want to do. And so I applied to grad school. I was a Hefner Fellow. And yeah, that's what ultimately made me decide to go to U of I for grad school.
Amazing. Yes, I remember that detail that we graduated in 2020.
Yeah.
So, you know. Yeah. I
Don't make me
mean,
cry. I'm
that
kidding.
that program is actually a really interesting program because the pipeline, so a lot of people when it comes time that like undergrad is finished, they've got their bachelor's, but taking the next step, for some people it looks like they know what they want to do and they want to go right into the workforce, which is awesome. But then some people, they're like, grad school is a really obvious next step for me. You mentioned it wasn't quite the obvious next step for you, but this program kind of made it easier for you to make that decision.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I knew what I was dealing with, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just knew the professors, I knew the curriculum, I knew my way
Oh,
around
yeah.
not even U of I, but also the Urbana-Champaign community. And I was very vested in it at the time. So it was a very easy decision for me to decide to go to graduate school.
Yeah. Journalism here is like such a special kind of program. I don't know if you want to speak on your experience with the journalism stuff specifically and like how we know each other
Mhm.
from that kind of thing. Yeah.
Like how we met
How
kind of
we
thing.
met, a
Yeah.
backstory.
Yeah. So what I think is really cool about the journalism program here is how intimate it can be. And I think the hands-on experience you have so soon. I remember I think audio journalism is sophomore year, and I was able to literally create a mini podcast so early in my career and just learn the importance of a pause and how to make my voice dramatic when I'm supposed to, just little things like that. And also have a lot of peer review so soon. We met though through GMI, which is Good Morning Illini, and it is a journalism show where we're able to really replicate essentially a morning show. And that is actually, it became a part of the curriculum, but at time it was just a hobby of journalism students who just wanted to
We just wanted to do it.
we just wanted to do it. And so we were empowered to make that our show. I mean, we had Ken Erdy, who was a professor at the university who was overseeing it, but we were
Yeah.
really able to just make it our own. And you happen to have been one of the people that I met through that. And we just cultivated a really good relationship. We were able to work together professionally, but we were also able to have fun. So
Yes.
that's a little bit about like what you experience in the journalism program.
It's like, I know it's so corny to be like, and we're like a family, but
Hmm.
it really did feel like that because journalism, we're like a school of hustlers. Like every
Hmm.
individual has like 5 jobs.
Hmm.
They've got their own podcast, they've got their own morning show. They're like hosting this morning show in the morning. They're running to like another job across town. Like we're just like real go-getters. And I feel
Yeah.
like that was such a fun, like infectious energy
Hmm.
to like really give you the appetite for what you have to love it to do this as a career,
Hmm.
which you're doing. And it's so funny that you mentioned that audio journalism class because I actually remember like right when I met you, you were working on like your very first podcast and you were like trying to like edit it together and clip it together and you were working so hard on it. It was like your very first thing.
Hmm.
And now look at you, you actually have your own podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast is called 2 Decades Deep, and it is a podcast about navigating your 20s. I'm still in my 20s, and I, after I graduated from my master's program, I was going through a lot of transition. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, even after my master's program. I knew I wanted to be in media, I just didn't know what that would look like. I had my first heartbreak. I was moving across the country. Like there was just so many things going on. And I remember feeling so isolated in that experience. And it really took me to talk to my peers to realize like, wait a second, we're all going through this endless transition after transition, post-graduate school. And so from there, I decided to use my degree, use the skill set that I got, and then also use my experience and combine the two and
Yeah.
create a platform for 20 somethings. I like to say it's like a one-stop shop for all 20 somethings.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
It's such a fun follow too. Like you do the wonderful job of like posting the snippets and like the
Oh, thank
content that
you.
goes along with it. Yeah, it's just such a fun, well-rounded way to have these conversations that like definitely no one seemed to be having
Hmm.
in the capacity that I felt like I need it, you know, like we're the same age. We're also like in that 20 something question mark
Late
zone.
20s. Yeah.
Late 20s, 20 something, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, so I appreciate what you're doing with the podcast. It's a little similar to what we're kind of doing here. but they kind of bookend each other, the
Hmm.
mission, I guess, navigating these big decisions in these very like transitional times.
Hmm.
It's tough. Honestly, the conversation around college and choosing college actually starts super young.
Hmm.
Like, you need to make those decisions. They're asked of you, you're like 17 when
Hmm.
you apply to school. Like, that's young. So, yeah, it's full of surprises, I would say. What would you say on like the 20 something end of it is like the biggest surprise about post grad life? And maybe some like advice in there for
Yeah.
people in that zone as well.
I think there is an expectation that after you graduate that your life would be very linear. I think for me, I had my checkbox. Okay, once I graduate, then I'm going to get a job just like that. And then after I get that job, I'm going to elevate in that job. And then after that, I'm going to get an apartment. And then I'm going to get like you just think that it's super linear. And also, I think I was so tunnel vision on I'm going to be a news anchor that when
Yeah.
I graduated and that's not how my experience panned out, I just didn't know what to do. And so I think that the biggest shock for me is like, wow, I actually have to figure this out on my own. And there's
No
no
option.
no one can make this decision for me. And everything that I do from this point on is on me. And so I
Mm,
think that's the biggest shock factor after graduating. But
totally.
with that, that's actually the beautiful part of figuring it out. I never thought that I would end up, I have the podcast, but I also am a full-time content strategist at a marketing firm. And I'm actually, like I say, I'm essentially like a content creator for businesses. And I do interview people, I interview their employees, but I would have never thought that that was even a niched opportunity or a field after I graduated. And so
Yeah.
through not knowing what I wanted to do, I stumbled upon that career. And so while I do think that it can be a little scary to not know what you're going to do, there's something beautiful also about figuring it out as you go.
That's so wonderfully said. I completely agree. I also didn't pursue the broadcast stuff post grad, even though I loved it. I loved
Mhm.
studying it. I had a blast, as you like are witness to, like back in the day. But yeah, we find these jobs that are like you just have to get creative and you have to give yourself a lot of grace.
Mhm.
This job that I have now, which I love, this was not my first job out of school. So it's okay. That's another thing that I guess I'll say if I'm like answering my own question. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's allowed on the
Yeah, of
podcast.
course.
It's like it's not a one and done. Like you're not never, but don't put the pressure on yourself to find like your perfect dream job right out of school. Like it's
Mhm.
definitely okay to try out different things and like grow as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned like you ended up not pursuing the anchor stuff, even though you really liked it, and you're still using those skills just in a different shape than maybe
Mhm.
you initially planned from undergrad. How did your time at Illinois kind of help prepare you for the real world? What does that look like for you now with your job as a content strategist, content creator?
Yeah. Yeah, I think before I go into the actual specifics and the skill set, I think just overall U of I helps you connect with different people. I also think because of the diversity that is represented here, you're able to really appreciate different people's backgrounds, cultures, experiences, and then being on the journalism end of that, I'm able to share those stories. And so with that, I am able to just be an advocate for all people to the best of my abilities just as a person. And so I think that's a lesson that's so underrated that U of I teaches you because it's just so diverse and they really welcome everyone. As far as a skill set, I think what I utilize the most is my interviewing skills. I will never forget, I took an immersion journalism class and an investigative journalism class and really learned the value of just listening and hearing people and listening to what they say. Because sometimes I would be so excited to interview people and like ask the next question versus just letting things pause and letting things breathe. And I found that I've had the most compelling interviews just by those little skills that I learned in the newsroom or in the classroom that I am able to incorporate on the day to day.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you touched on this earlier, but just to reemphasize, like the power of getting to do this stuff so young, so
Hmm.
early on, like freshman year, sophomore year, you're creating stuff that's like, there's opportunities on this campus. Like, we get some real guest stars on this show. Like, there's
Hmm.
some real celebrities that come through. having the chance to maybe even interact with them, interview
Yeah.
them, or just practicing on friends, on
Hmm.
your peers, like that is so valuable to get to kind of learn from mistakes in like the stakes are as big or little as you need them to be
Hmm.
here at U of I. Like you can definitely I don't know, you can learn from mistakes without being on like a big world stage where you're at a job and if you
Yeah.
mess up, it's like,
Yeah.
scary.
I agree. I
So that was
agree.
really cool for me.
Hmm.
Plus it's just fun. It's just so fun to get to do that kind of thing. So why don't you walk us through a little bit about what you are doing now at work? Like what's a typical kind of day in the life for
Hmm.
Taylor?
Dana life. I feel like no day's the same, and I feel like a lot of people say that in media, like no day's ever the same, but it
Mm.
really is like that. I mean, I would say on a travel day, I fly out to different companies, and then I start my day prepping for interviews. I make sure that I am up to speed as to who I'm interviewing. Then I walk my team, my freelancers, my videographer, photographers about like what will the day encompass, and then from there we get the ball rolling from about 9 to 5. I do 6 to 8 interviews. We also cover the landscape of the company headquarters that we're at, and we're able to capture those interviews, but also capture the B-roll and just like the audio and like the fun moments in between. Like we
Cool.
like to get a lot of behind the scenes moments.
Yeah.
And then from there, get to work and I start to transcribe that audio and the interviews, and then I essentially make the scripts and get it to my editing team.
That is so cool.
Thanks.
That's just a really fun job.
It is a fun job.
Oh
And I
my
would have
gosh.
never thought that I would be able to do that
Yeah.
once I graduated.
I know. I know people said like when we were starting school, like, the job you end up having might not even exist right now as you're applying,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of crazy to wrap your head around as like an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But we live in a very fast-paced environment, especially in media.
We
And
do.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have a busy day.
Yes, I do have a busy day.
That's so fun though. So when you're interviewing these guests, whether it's at your company job or your podcast, is there anything that you've learned from a guest that really stuck with you?
That's a good question. I feel like I learn things every day, whether it's a fun fact or just a lesson that they've learned in life. I think one in particular, she was a marriage therapist and she taught the value that rest is not something that you have to earn. Like you deserve
Hmm.
rest. I think that just honestly being Gen Z, um, and being in this rat race culture, we're just taught that like rest should be earned once we grind. And my favorite
Yeah.
quote is there's no glory in the grind if it grinds you to dust. And so I think the reminder that you need rest to recover and you need rest because life is hard. And so I think that was just a really good reminder that I really do try to embody because being in media can be like very taxing. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've taken with me.
That's a really, really good one. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Well,
sharing.
thank her. She's the one that gave me
Yeah.
the
Okay.
advice.
Well, thank you. What was her name again?
Her name was Claudia Roberts.
Claudia Roberts. Thanks so much. Oh my gosh. So we talk about the college experience on this podcast, the
Hmm.
journey to college and beyond, if you
Hmm.
will. And this is the beyond. Um, but a lot of people listening right now are probably in a time in their life where they're asking themselves, is college worth it?
Hmm.
College is expensive, college is challenging, it's tough to get in, it's tough to find what you want to do and stick with it. Even the social aspect of college is really challenging for a lot of people. So I wonder, like, how has your formal education here and also just like the kind of social, you know,
Hmm.
education that you have when you go to a big school like U of I, um, how has that really helped you in your field and in your personal life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of grew up in a household where there was no question. Like my mom was like, you are going to college. So I had no choice. But I will say, I will say that looking back at it, I couldn't imagine having a different experience. And I'm so grateful that, and going back to U of I, just how much hands-on experience you have so young. Like I think about, I mean, we've talked about Good Morning Illini, but we've haven't talked about how I was a student news reporter and they just willingly let me have the cultural beat. And I was able to touch on and highlight minority groups on campus. And it was just, there was no like, no, you can't do that, or you have to climb the ladder. There was no hierarchy. Like everyone truly wanted to see each other elevate. And so I think that's like a really good value of U of I. But also, I just think that there's some things that life can't teach you if you don't go to school. Like, in the sense of just the connections, like I said, you can always connect with other people, but there's something about Illinois that people just genuinely want to see you succeed. Socially, I mean, I was involved with a lot of journalism programs, but I was also in a sorority, and they also talked about professional development and how to handle yourself at school, but also beyond school, how to be community minded and service minded, that this life isn't just about yourself and you're supposed to pour into other people. And while I think those lessons could arguably be learned in other spaces, I think just being 18 to 22 and just realizing in the cynical mindset that some people may have that, wow, I really can contribute to society in a meaningful way, and whatever that looks like. And so for me, I feel like coupling the experiences that I had in journalism, but also that community-based mindset, I'm able to contribute in that way every single day. I like to say, like, I like to make people feel seen, bridge gaps, and fill gaps. And that's how I like to navigate myself professionally. And so I'm really happy that I'm able to give people a platform and highlight people and give people the stories that they deserve.
That's so cool.
Thank
It's
you.
such a special, probably joyful, I would imagine, way to make a living. I know you work like so hard. I'm sure you're like getting on planes on this day and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, what a wonderful, joyful way to make a living.
Thank you.
So cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I really
and
do.
it's such an interesting way to like think about success. Like a lot of people are very like focused on the idea of success. What does success look like to you now? And how has that maybe changed over time?
Yeah, I think how I valued success, I would say, even maybe a couple years ago, was
Like post-grad.
post-grad. Yeah, post-grad.
Yeah.
I would say I defined it as accolades, or when I started the podcast, I wanted to have this certain number to deem that this was successful, or I just wanted to check off those boxes, going back to those boxes of where I think I should have been, being 27. But I think now my success looks like what I'm ultimately aligned with. Like, am I pouring back into people? I'm a very faith-based person. And so am I doing things that align with my faith? Am I telling these meaningful stories in a way that has integrity, but also being truthful? And so just thinking of it like that, I think that's how I currently define success. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to be successful in regards to like the metrics, and for the podcast to be lucrative and to have more exposure. But I think I always go back to that core belief of, am I contributing in the way that I want to?
Yes. I think in this kind of field especially, it's really easy to get too wrapped up in like the quantity and the metrics, but it's really about the quality.
It is.
Yeah. And like achieving that balance for yourself too is sometimes you forget to even check in with yourself. And you're just like on autopilot because you're juggling all of the things, you know, you've got a lot going on, but yeah, and just like having that growth mindset. We've talked about that on the podcast a lot before, is like just showing up with a growth mindset to whatever it is, college, a job, you know, a side project like a podcast or whatever it may be, because there's always more to figure out. You've never got it all figured out. So is there something that you're still figuring out? It sounds like you've got it all together, to the listener, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, if that's what you got from my conversation. No, I think what I'm still figuring out is like, who do I still want to be? What avenues do I still want to tap into? Like, I love how Michelle Obama coined becoming. We're always becoming different versions of ourselves. And so I think what I'm still figuring out is, yeah, how I want to show up in society. What avenues do I want to tap into? How do I want to expand in the media space, or if there's something else I want to contribute to? So that's what I'm still figuring out. Like, there's a lot that I still want out of this life, but I'm also open and surrendered to whatever comes to me as well.
Yeah. It seems like you're on the right path.
I
It
think
definitely
so.
does.
I would like to think so.
I would think so. Oh my gosh. I like to do this little segment on the podcast that's like kind of like college myth busting.
Mhm.
Like, is there one myth about college or life after college? I'll open it up to both, that you want to debunk, maybe like an expectation or
Yeah.
something like that you had.
Yeah, I think just going back to like, I thought that it was very linear when
Mhm.
I graduated and that you have to do things in a certain way. Like, you have to get a job right after college. That job, you're going to stay in and climb that ladder at that job. And just not really letting myself expand mentally. Like, I didn't realize how limitless your career can take you, like your degree can take you. And so I think the biggest debunk is that you can really, like, not to sound cliche, but life is really what you make it. And so let's make it rock.
Let's make it
No,
rock.
Hannah Montana. But no, it really is what you make it. And I think that if you're just open-minded to whatever life has for you, you'll end up where you're supposed to end up. And it may look a little different. I remember the first job that I got out of college, I was working at it's called Rich Township, and it was like an organization in a suburb of Chicago. And I was like writing news briefs for senior citizen home, and I was like, how is this even gonna apply to what I ultimately wanted to
That I roll.
right? And ultimately that news brief was actually something that really stood out to my current employer. Like, wow, like you were able to like create that on your own, and you were able to reach this certain amount of people. And so you just never know where life is going to take you.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
funny.
yeah, exactly.
So funny how like one little thing you did is like
exactly.
butterfly effect down the road. Wild. Thinking back to like 18-year-old Taylor, about to start college, wide-eyed freshman, and probably applying that to like anyone else who's in a similar space right now. What's one piece of advice or reassurance that you would say to her?
I think about this often. I think what I wish I could tell my younger self is just to be more present. Things will come as they're supposed to come, and just really enjoying the moment. I think in college, especially, I would say more my freshman and sophomore year, I was so future minded that I wasn't present focused, and just enjoying that we'll only be in college once. I'll only be this young once, and just really appreciating being with my friends, trying new things, exploring new opportunities on campus. That's what I wish I would have told. Like, I wish I would have known that as my 18, 20-year-old self.
Definitely. I feel the same thing. Like, I just wish I could tell myself, like, take a breath, relax your shoulders, like, unclench your jaw, you know, in more ways than just the physical. Like, just really soak it up and enjoy it, and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Exactly.
Awesome. Taylor, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Guys, listen to Taylor and all of her wonderful advice and conversations on 2 Decades Deep. You can find her podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. We did it.
We did it.
Yay!